Welcome to this edition of the Native News Update. I'm your host for today's edition, Paul Demain. Many of the stories and information here can be found at our website, www.indiancountrynews.com, where your online membership helps support this television station. Here are some of the news updates for the day from the Associated Press and other Native news sources. The Oneida Nation of Wisconsin closed a deal during late December to acquire the Thornberry Creek Golf Course for $10.8 million after a federal judge rejected the Village of Hobart's appeal of the sale. Judge William Greisbach issued a ruling upholding a decision that allows the tribe to buy the course with the restrictions placed on the property by the village, including a requirement that taxes be paid on the property. The 320-acre 36-hole golf course with banquet facilities and a pro shop was owned by TCGC LLC when it filed for bankruptcy. As part of bankruptcy proceedings, a plan was approved last November allowing the tribe to buy the golf course. Plans now call for the course to be operated by the Oneida's hospitality-related business arm. A state law that took effect January 1st has shifted the tax revenue generated by the sales of Indiana's Native American license plate away from Prophetstown State Park and into a fund for a state commission. But what the Indiana Native American Indian Affairs Commission will do with the money isn't clear because the panel was dissolved in mid-2008 after several of its members resigned. The panel was created by statute in 2003 to advise the state government on American Indian issues. In resigning last year before it was disbanded, some of the commission's members complained that the panel was often gridlocked and therefore unable to make decisions. Shirley Willard, a Fulton County historian, said there are many possibilities for the license plate revenue. She would like some of the money to go toward building an Indian museum at Prophetstown State Park that would trace the history of Indiana's American Indians. Two men charged with the 1975 slaying of Anime Pictou Aquash on the Pine Ridge Reservation can be tried together. A magistrate judge has ruled in denying their request for separate trials. John Graham and Richard Marshall have pled not guilty to charges they committed or aided and abetted the first-degree murder of Aquash. They're scheduled to stand trial together in Rapid City, South Dakota next month, starting on February 24th, 33 years after her body was found near Wambley, South Dakota. Marshall was indicted in August, 5 years after Graham and Arlo Looking Cloud were initially charged. Looking Cloud was convicted in the year 2004 for his role in Aquash's murder and sentenced to life in prison. He is cooperating with the government in its case against Graham and Marshall. Prosecutors accuse Marshall of providing the handgun and shell that Graham used to kill Aquash on orders from leaders of the American Indian movement who suspected she was a government informant. Attorneys for Graham and Marshall both filed motions for separate trials. Graham's lawyer, John Murphy, argued his client's constitutional rights would be violated if the men were tried together because statements made by Marshall will incriminate both men, and Marshall is not expected to testify, so he can't be cross-examined. Marshall's attorney, Dana Hanna, argued that the government has a stronger case against Graham, which will hurt Marshall's chance for a fair trial. Flooding used to be a problem every 5 or 10 years for the tiny Hoh Indian Reservation in Washington state. These days it's an annual event. Sandbags permanently surround the tribal center and many homes because the nearby Hoh River has meandered dangerously close over time, so the Hoh are trying to move to higher ground. There's just one catch. The tribe needs 37 acres of the Olympic National Park to connect their existing land with property they've acquired from private owners and the state of Washington. The Hoh and other tribes ceded their land to the government under the Quinault Treaty of 1856. In 1893, the Hoh were moved to this 1-acre reservation land hemmed in by the river, the ocean, and what is now the rain-soaked Olympic National Park. Since then, the Hoh River has shifted a half-mile south, cutting into land near the tribal center. With 90% of the reservation in a flood zone, the tribe has been trying to relocate its building for 2 decades. That's actually a 1 square mile plot, not a 1 acre plot at the mouth of the river. To kick off the New Year's, the Honor the Earth Intertribal Council on Utility Policy, the Indigenous Environmental Network, and the International Indian Treaty Council has released a tribal energy policy recommendation to President-elect Barack Obama and his transition team. The policy says when considering energy production, resource extraction, housing, and energy efficiency, it is essential that the incoming administration take into account the impacts of climate change and energy development on American Indian reservations and Alaska Native villages, and the potential for catalyzing green reservation economies. It notes that, amongst other things, that tribal lands have an estimated 535 billion kilowatt year of wind power generation potential, that tribal lands have an estimated 17,000 billion kilowatt year of solar electricity generation potential, about 4.5 times the U.S. annual generation. Investing in renewable energy creates more jobs per dollar than the money invested in fossil fuel energy, and fuel efficiency creates 21.5 jobs for every 1 million invested. The cost of fuel for wind and solar power can be projected into the future as well, providing a unique opportunity for stabilizing an energy-intensive economy. It also points out that clean coal is an oxymoron and that mining coal is never clean. Nuclear power is not a solution to climate change. Oil drilling impacts sensitive Arctic regions. And importing 80% of the Alberta Canadian tar/oil sands crude oil to feed U.S. energy needs encourages unprecedented ecological destruction in Canadian Native communities in Canada. It also says that unchecked expansion of biofuels, or agrofuels, production and agricultural monocrops threaten biodiversity and food security and contribute to climate change and the destruction of rainforest, impacting indigenous communities worldwide. The document was signed by Winona LeDuc of Honor the Earth, Bob Goff of the Intertribal Council on Utility Policy, and Tom Goldtooth from the Indigenous Environmental Network. According to the Red Lake Nation News, a delegation from CITGO visited the reservation during December to discuss this year's Energy and Heating Assistance Program. The delegation arrived with a film crew to not only obtain potential input for the future of the program, but to record testimonies about the value of the program in order to show stockholders the positive impact. The CITGO Tribal Heating Oil Program was started in 2006 and has provided assistance to members of 163 tribes and their members, many located in Alaska, but also tribes in New York, Montana, South Dakota, and Minnesota. Last year, the Red Lake program assisted over 1,600 eligible reservation members. And that is the latest round of news from Indian Country and the Native News Update. Stay tuned for another edition of the Native News Update soon. We want to thank our underwriters for helping us broadcast the Native News Update and our digital mall partners at powwows.com and nativeview.com, broadcasting from Helena, Montana. That's today's news. Thank you.